My name is Jackie Palfi, and this is the Cycle of Success podcast. I am certain that you can make life more than just a living. You can achieve more by doing less. My mission is to help you create abundance in all areas of life without you burning out. So what are you waiting for? All we have is right now. Hey, welcome Kristine. Welcome to the Cycle of Success podcast. I am so excited to have you here, and I have actually really been looking forward to this conversation with you. Everyone listening, Kristine is a transformational mindset expert, and I am really excited about this conversation because much of the work that you do is also similar to the work that I'm doing with my clients. And as I was just telling you before we started, it's just a really beautiful way to deepen our understanding about this material, because we kind of never finish understanding it. So this is something I've really been looking forward to, and I cannot wait to share with the audience what your expertise is and what your knowledge about everything is. So let's just start out by turning the word over to you. I'd love for you to just shortly introduce yourself and maybe, a quick short story about how you got into mindset training and coaching.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored and happy to be here. And I too was really looking forward to our conversation today. Our last conversation was so wonderful. I really love connecting with like-minded women, entrepreneurs who understand that success in business and in life all starts with your thoughts about it, right? It all starts with your mindset. So I got into this world sort of accidentally. About 15 years ago, I got sober, and doing a 12-step program really started to dive into how I think, how my mind works, really got into meditation at that time. So I've been meditating for 15 years now. And through my entrepreneurship, I was constantly being forced to take a look at my fears, my doubts, my limiting beliefs, because there's so much that you have to go through in your journey as an entrepreneur to overcome those things. And so as I was growing my businesses, I found that the thing that I loved the most about my businesses was the mindset piece. So a couple of years ago, I got some certifications, and I'm certified in a number of modalities. And now my primary occupation is taking determined but stressed women entrepreneurs and executives and turning them into joyful and confident CEOs.
Oh, wow, that is powerful. Wow, I really love it. Especially because I am, also connected with so many people working with mindset in some way. But the way you just said it, that you want to, like your passion is to turn people with those feelings over to someone who is joyful and has, a more abundant and a life where there's more flow. That gave me goosebumps. So I love that. That's awesome. And I actually didn't know that part of you, like why you got into mindset training. So where on this journey do you feel like you really got your breakthrough in understanding how your mind works around your success?
That's a great question. And I think to your point earlier, it's a constant evolution and a constant learning. Like we're never done, right? And I plan to go on this journey until I'm no longer on this planet, right? It's constant learning and exploration. And I really love that like deeper inner exploration. I think for me, it's been layered. It started with the basics of just learning how my mind works and the way I thought about things when I first got into personal development. And then really a lot of things took off for me when I became certified as a master practitioner of neurolinguistic programming. So really diving into the subconscious mind and how the mind works, and then backing that with the science of how the mind works. I always find that really, really fascinating. And then what really took me to the next level, and what takes my clients to the next level, is tuning into our intuition, being able to tune into our higher self, that version of us that we want to be, and being able to choose to operate from that perspective. So choosing the thoughts that we want to think, choosing the feelings that we want to have, and then choosing the actions that we take to create what we want. I often say to my clients, the choosing is simple. The challenge is in the consistency of those choices. And when you know how your mind works, when you know what roadblocks come up for you, when you know what limitations or fears or doubts or whatever comes up for you, you can observe those things and choose the way you want to feel about it, choose the way you think about it. And that process takes time. That process takes some guidance, because the old patterns, the ways that we're used to thinking and feeling, developed over 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, right? So in order for us to have a new experience of life and to make new choices, it's going to take some consistency in order to do that. And it really helps when you have someone like you guiding your clients through that process, because often the mind that created the problem is not the mind that's going to solve the problem. It's a new mind that will do that. And having a guide can help you to create that new way of looking at things, new perspectives.
So important. Thank you so much for your gold nuggets. And something that comes to my mind while you're talking is actually I love the way Joe Dispenza puts it in his book, Becoming Superhuman?
Supernatural.
Supernatural, that's the way it is. He is really talking about these old patterns and creating a biochemical reaction in your body, which you are as addicted to as an addict is to the drugs. And I think that is so scary. And that is also what most people don't understand when they go on this journey. I very often get the question, like, how do I understand the difference between my fear and intuition? Like, when is it my intuition telling me that I should not do it? And how do I, so do you get this question as well? And how do you work with your clients, making this difference between fear holding you back and your intuition saying maybe this is not the best idea for you to do?
Yeah, it takes practice. And I think for so many of us, especially for women, we aren't told to trust our intuition. In fact, most of our upbringing is telling us to not trust it, right? When we have to be nice to somebody who we've had this gut feeling we shouldn't be nice to, right? But good girls are nice, right? Like it's ingrained in us generally from a really young age to override our intuitions. And so when I work with women in my program, I find that one of the things that we really need to dive into is tuning into your own intuition, really creating that conscious connection with your intuition. And I do it in a way that the mind can understand. So creating a higher self, whether that's like a person or an entity, maybe you give it a name, and it's something that you can then, kind of have a conversation with, like ask questions of like, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think I should do? And when you're developing that connection, you actually get the answers. And you'll know when you're connected to your intuition because the answers feel like relief. It feels calm. It feels, it doesn't have the tinge of fear or anxiety or worry. That's often when we're in our conscious mind or we're replaying the past. When we're in our intuition, when we're really connected with that, it generally feels very calm, peaceful, relaxed, easygoing, effortless, like obvious. It feels like, yeah, that's the obvious thing to do, right? And those feelings, many of us aren't very used to. We're used to living in a world that's kind of stressful and a little fearful, and we're always a little anxious, especially these days. We've got a lot of things happening in our world we've never had to deal with before. Being able to create quiet space where you tune into your intuition and you practice doing that and feeling what that feels like, the more you do that, the stronger and stronger your connection to your intuition becomes. And then it becomes something you easily access. You don't have to like take time away to meditate, to connect with it. It's just there for you. But it takes some time and practice to develop that connection. Just like, honestly, just like any other relationship, right? Like when you first start dating someone, you don't really know them. You're not really sure, right? But the longer you're in that relationship, the more time you take to connect with that person, the more you get to know them. And then eventually you can kind of guess what their answers to the question would be, right? It's sort of like your intuition is like a relationship you have to develop.
Yeah, totally. I always tell my clients that it's like when you pick up the phone and talk with your best friend. For the first time that you talk with your best friend, you wouldn't recognize that voice. But after a while, knowing this person very good, and then like the person barely has to breathe and you already know it's that person on the other end of the line, right?
Yeah.
And that is also how it feels when you know your intuition talks to you. So that is very similar analogy. I really love that. Would you go a little bit more deeper into this higher self? What does that mean for people who, haven't worked too much with that term yet?
So, the higher self for me, the way that I define it, is the version of me who's not afraid, who doesn't have limiting beliefs, who doesn't have doubt, who doesn't have fear. It's like that version of me that doesn't have resistance to what it is that I want to create and who I want to be. And for others, that could be a little bit different. You know, their higher self might be, they might call it God. They might call it might be Jesus. It might be whatever, you know, for others, like that's the cool thing about it is there's no one right way and there's no one answer. It's whatever works for you. You know, so for me, my higher self it's the version of me who's not afraid, who's trusting, who just feels grateful and joyful and knows that everything is happening in the right time and all is as it is supposed to be. It's a very lofty version of me, but it's also that part of me that's like really connected to source, to God, to the universe, to everyone else, that feels that oneness with others. And when I'm connected to that higher self, I don't feel alone. I don't feel separate. I feel very held. I feel like confident. Like I can trust that when I'm asking my higher self the questions, I will be given the right answers. And when I started to develop that trust in my higher self and the answers that I get in those conversations, it brought so much confidence to my life. So I was like, oh, okay, I can trust that these are always going to be the right answers. And that was really freeing for me to be able to have that connection.
Yes. And we see that in our clients as well, right? It is when kind of love just enters inside of you. When you start feeling love in every cell of your being, doesn't matter what the circumstances around you say, that is when you come into the best creative mode. So thank you so much for sharing that. I also know in our last conversation you mentioned that you do have a meditation where you guide people into meeting their higher self and then kind of going into a conversation and hearing what they have to say, right? Wasn't
Yes.
it like, so just for everyone listening, this is something I will put in the show notes, something that so that they can also contact you and, you know, stay in touch and ask questions if there's something they'd like to know more of, and then also download this meditation. Awesome. So how is, like, when we look at your life right now, where you are right now, what would be the next step for you? Like, what would you love to create? What is your next level vision?
Oh my gosh, so many things, so many things. It's nice that it's spring again, and it feels like travel will be possible again. I really love to travel, and it's been a little bit of a challenge over the last year to not travel as much. However, I did use my time to travel inward. I was doing a lot of the Joe Dispenza meditations actually during the beginning of quarantine, which was really cool. For me, for my business, for what I'm creating, it's really just continuing to create a life I love, working with amazing women to help them have the breakthroughs in their life where they're saying, I love who I am. I love my health. I love my body. I love my relationships. I love my business, and understanding how powerful they are. So we have some plans for our company to expand, just expand our reach so that we're able to find and work with more women. We have some exciting things we're coming out with soon, including a planner that we use within our program. We're creating it so that others can use it as well. Learning how to really use your own body's energy and momentum to maximize when it's right for you to take action and when it's right for you to rest and reflect. We also have, I'm just enjoying creating a great relationship, creating great health. And I'm really looking forward to just being able to be with people in person again. I have a vision for creating retreats, creating events, and being able to really connect with my community, not just on Zoom, but in person. Because I think there's just, we create great energy on Zoom, but the energy that you get when you're with people it's really powerful. So I'm looking forward to creating more in-person events, creating more for our community to experience, and just continuing to share this message that we are the powerful creators of our life. We have the ability to create what we want through our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions, and through our intuition. We'll know exactly what to do. So
beautiful. Thank you so much. While you're talking, something came to me, like a thought came to me that I have been asked for many times, and I would love for you to share some of your thoughts as well. Especially here in Europe right now, I don't know how it is where you are, but we have been in a lockdown for almost 2 months with everything shut down, and many people are really struggling with not being able to work and so on. I really love to work with these kind of women because this is a time where they can really make a big breakthrough, because it's just, there's nothing to lose, so they have all this energy and power to really go all in. But there's also the other pole, and people who really feel caught up in their circumstances and don't know where to go from here. Do you have some thoughts on that or some tips? What would you tell your clients who come overwhelmed with this struggle to you?
Yeah, that's been a really interesting thing to balance with people at this time, because these circumstances that we're living through is not anything any of us have personally experienced before, right? We're all working through this circumstance in our own ways, separately and together. And I agree. There's no time like now. I mean, the now is all we truly have. And I think for so many of us, we put off for the future. We think that circumstances will be better in the future. I'll have more money in the future. I'll be more ready in the future. And that's not always a guarantee. And I actually said this recently to someone. I said, you're giving your future self too much credit. You think your future self is going to be more ready to do these things, but maybe it's not. You right now are the most powerful you can be and are. So make your choices and your decisions from who you are and what you want right now, not from who you're going to be or what will happen in the future. Because your future is what is created by your decisions and your choices right now. So waiting is generally not going to get you the results that you want. Making the choices from who you are right now And having that courage, trust yourself, trust your intuition, trust your choices, trust your decisions. It's really, really important that you stay in the moment of now when you're making your choices, and trust that it will work for your best and highest good.
I love that you also say, that your future life or your future self is based on the thoughts and actions and feelings that you've had in the now. And a very important thing here is also what I love to talk about is the law of polarity. That there is no challenge without a possibility for something good, equally good as well. So when we are in these huge challenges, it's not that we should deny them, they are there, but why not start engaging our thoughts in the possibility of actually creating something good out of it. And I think that's why it's such a powerful time that we're in, because it could really create some breakthroughs for the world if we just all engage in that kind of thoughts, right?
Yes.
So yeah. Yeah, what else do you feel like is important in your work where you can, when you're helping your clients with good breakthroughs? Like you told me you love to talk about the intuition and the higher self, but what other parts of your work do you feel really fired up about?
That's such a great question. I actually just asked my clients this a couple of days ago. I asked in the group, I just said, what's the most important or impactful thing that you've learned since being in this space and learning these things? And every single one of them, so people had several answers, but in every single answer was the power of choice and the power of choosing. I think most of us are raised in a way that we don't truly understand or are given permission to choose our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. Even as kids, we're constantly told what we're supposed to think, what we're supposed to feel, what we're supposed to do, right? And it's part of the process of becoming adults, right? That you can't just always do whatever you want. There is, redirection that has to happen. But for most of us, the message that we're given is that we don't have that much choice. Circumstances happen. Life is sort of laid out for you. We're really told that life is about reacting to what's happening around us, right? Circumstances happen, and then you have a thought about it, or you have a feeling about it, and then you have a reaction to it. And it's really the opposite. And having power in your life, like true empowerment, is knowing that it's always your choice. You get to choose how you feel, what you think, and what you do. Always. It is always your choice. And your life is made up of those choices, right? The life that you are experiencing is your thoughts about it. The circumstances are what they are. And two people can be in the exact same circumstances and yet have two polar opposite experiences of that same circumstance, simply because of the thoughts and the feelings and the actions that they choose. And when you know how powerful you can be simply by choosing your thoughts and your feelings and your actions, it's truly remarkable what kind of life you can create, the kind of perception that you can have of the life that you're living. And that's really, I believe, where true empowerment lies, and the ability to create a life that you love.
Definitely. That is such a powerful topic, and I love that you bring it up. Actually, I would love if we could go a little bit more deep into this responding versus reacting mode, because something that I get asked often as well is, but if somebody tells me something really mean or hurts my feelings, how am I supposed to not react? And that is, again, something where you should, where we can go deep and say, okay, but what is it in you that it triggers? Like, why does that hurt your feelings? And how would you love to respond to this so that it wouldn't
Yes.
take down your energy? Like, what is your way of working around this part of, reacting and responding?
Yeah, well, I think you said it right there, is how would you rather respond? And I say to people, the patterns that we have, the ways that we would react to something they're pretty deeply grooved in our brains, right? If you've been used to responding to situations or circumstances or things in a particular way since you were very young, that's going to be your first response. Your subconscious mind works on the law of least effort. And it's just going to take the default pattern, like, oh, someone says something, this is how you react. It's just going to do that automatically because it takes very little energy or effort for the brain to do that. So that's your first response. Often I say to people, you don't judge that first response. That's just old patterns. Fine. But observe it, recognize it, and then choose how you would like to respond instead. It's really about interrupting the patterns and creating awareness, right? So say somebody says something to you and you choose to be angry about it. Your first response is that you're angry about what they've said. That's your first response that comes from old conditioned patterns, right? You go, oh, okay. My response is angry. Interesting. That's a pattern. What would I rather feel instead? What would I rather choose to think and feel that would serve me instead? And then make that choice. It takes, again, it takes consistency, it takes awareness, it takes some time, but eventually, if you're consistent with that, you can get to a place where somebody says something and your reaction is not anger, right? You've now created a new pattern where your response is the response that you want to be having, right? Back to the Joe Dispenza work, your body's just used to reacting in certain ways. But when you train your mind and your body to respond in new ways, and you consistently make those choices, and you feel what that feels like, and you experience that, that then becomes your new default way of being. It just takes a little time to get there. It takes a little practice. You've got to create some new grooves, some new neural pathways in your mind so that the mind's new path of least resistance is the path you want it to be taking.
Yeah, and great things never happen when things are convenient or comfortable, right? We really, we really do need to start creating new thoughts for us to create new results. And something that also came to me was I went to, like 1.5 years ago, I went to a seminar with Bob Proctor in LA, and something that he always teaches is the difference between reaction and responding. And he always teaches that he was talking in front of a group, and he asked this group what they think the difference is, and people came with really weird answers, but then he noticed this little girl, maybe around 14, who was really thinking about this question. And then after a while she put up her hand and she said, reacting is something you do automatically without thinking, whereas responding is something you really have to stop up and think about first. You have to start using your mental capacities, where the other thing is just something that was installed into you as you were a little kid and you have no control over, or you choose not to have control over it. And I really, really love this explanation, and it gives so much understanding of exactly tied back to what you were saying before with the power of choice. Do we live a life where we choose ourselves, or do we just live the way we were it was installed into us when we didn't even have the choice ourselves?
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's the difference between unconscious, just autopilot, working on the same patterns, and being a conscious choice maker. Yeah.
So powerful. Thank you so much. All right, Kristine. I have a last question for you, and it is a question that I like to ask all my podcast interview guests. So I'd like for you to imagine that anything you've ever created, be it anything you have ever written, any meditations or any Instagram posts or anything, any training that you made, this was destroyed and burned in a fire. So anything you've ever created is just gone. I then take a piece of paper and a pen and I give this to you and I ask you to put down 3 things that you'd like to leave the world with the day that you're not here anymore. What would you put on that piece of paper?
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's big. I love it. What a great question. The first thing that comes to mind is that you have the power to choose. The second is that, it's just coming to mind, is that you get to love yourself. And, oh gosh, what would the third be? Honestly, that I hope that I'm leaving the world better than when I found it. I believe that we are all connected. We are all one. We are all on this journey together. And that when one of us heals, when one of us grows, when one of us expands in love and awareness and understanding and non-judgment, that it's raising the collective consciousness, that every one of us gets to experience that. And I really hope that at the end of my life, that my life will have contributed to the raising of the collective in spirit and in love and in understanding. So I don't know if that answers your question,
but it's amazing. And I feel it deep inside my heart. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom and everything with us. And if anyone out there listening have any questions for you, Kristine, I will put your information as well in the show notes with the meditation, and people can just reach out to you. Thank you so much for today. I wish you a great, great day.
Thank you so much.